Okay. Hi, Dr. Waddles.
Hello, hello. It's a pleasure, Michelle. Thank you so much for having me.
So good to see you.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you brought attention to the necessity of process over product. And I
Yes.
believe that specifically during this time in our lives, in this nation, in this world, we as creatives need to be a bit more focused on the behind the scenes of
Hmm.
it all. What makes it work? What implications does this have for we as creatives, as humans, creating in this world during this time? And so I applaud you, and I applaud the group, and I applaud everyone who is being open to this forum of conversation and transparency and dedication to the art form in a new way,
Mm,
in a new way. So
thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So we just want to first get to know you a little bit. Um, Tell us a little bit about where you are now and what you're up to.
Absolutely. I am back in Detroit, my hometown where I was
Very
born
cool.
and reared. I now serve as Director of Choral Activities at Wayne State University, which is located right in the heart downtown of
Awesome.
Detroit, Michigan. So I am conductor for this semester, for the Choral Union and for the Concert Chorale, but I also am on the vocal music education
Mm.
faculty within the Department of Music. We are in the course now, specifically with the choral ensembles, of re-examining the ensemble concept
Hmm.
during the semester. We're meeting virtually, as many are, but we are taking more time for listening and conversation,
Hmm.
and redefining. That's what we're calling it, Wayne Redefined, where we now explore various ensemble concepts that weren't necessarily taught as much about in the classroom, in the choral rehearsal room.
Great. So we want to know also a little bit of the making of the musician. We see you as the composer, but you're a performer and you started as a
I
child
did, I
doing
did. I
something.
started,
So what was it?
I started in first grade with piano lessons.
Awesome.
Everyone in my family, immediate family, and that is siblings, parents, aunts, and uncles, started off with piano lessons. And I'm so grateful to grandparents and to parents that found it not robbery um, to instill in us an appreciation for culture, art and
Mm.
culture. Right? Two are combined and should never be separated. My grandmother, my father's mother, would always take us to the DIA, the Detroit Institute of Art, which was about 5 minutes away from me. She would take us to the ballet during the winter and the
Wonderful.
spring. So these are various facets sort of outside of the musical vein. My father is a musician, a professional musician who is beloved in the city. And he is a pianist and a singer and a composer and everything that I do, but I just say it 10 times better than I. But he certainly served as major impetus for me and my
Mm.
work, and still that is the case today. But I started out with piano,
Wow.
actually. Music all around, church, uh, the symphony, anywhere else that I was running around with my dad to go
Yeah.
do. But
Great.
I didn't really start singing until out loud, I'll say, until high school.
Okay,
Until high school,
interesting.
I joined, I was in a choir in middle school, but really wasn't interested in it when I got to high school at all. Had no interest. I was going fully into concert piano work. And I got to my first choir rehearsal, being forced upon the, or in there, and never left.
Yes, yes.
Never left.
So when did you begin composing music?
The off color story is in high school. I had, in particular, two amazing big brothers of mine that were amazing writers and are still amazing writers and composers to this day. One in particular, Stacy Gibbs, he was a student of my high school choir director, Nina Scott.
Wow.
And we were the first to start premiering his spiritual arrangements. Of course, Stacey Gibbs is now known as one of the, if not the preeminent source in arranging spirituals today.
Hmm.
But he was just starting out back then.
Wow.
And I would be listening to what he was doing. He would sit at the piano. He'd say, "Brandon, I came up with this. How does this sound?" Um, and another one was Damon Dandridge. Damon Dandridge, also a wonderful composer, arranger, and a big brother of mine. As I was listening to and performing their arrangements, as well as those of, oh my goodness, Moses Hogan, William Dawson, Chester Hairston, Undine Smith Moore,
Mm.
Adolphus Hailstork was a big one. I just said, I have got to sit down at the piano and start to put stuff down. I've got to. I probably got it around college. I attended Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia,
Okay.
historically black college, where Dr. Martin Luther King, Spike Lee, Sam Jackson, Maynard Jackson versus Black Mayor of Atlanta, so many were schooled there. In terms of music and my connection to African American sacred music, Dr. David Edward Morrow, Dr. Uzi Brown, their mentor, Dr. Wendell Phillips Whalum, Robert Shaw called him something like the key to the spiritual, the key to the
Mm.
Negro spiritual. It was there that I really started to write.
Mm.
And actually, I would have voice lessons with Dr. Brown. He was my voice teacher. And after those voice lessons, I would bring in my sheet music and we'd go over things that I'd written. And the
Awesome.
first piece that really caught his attention was If My People.
Really?
If My People was my first published piece, but it was written for male voices for
That's
TTBB. Is My People as a Mixed was not written until several years later,
okay.
and was actually just recently published under the Morehouse College series, where Dr. Brown, my voice teacher, one of my first composition teachers, he is editor, also with GIA. So another full circle moment there. So yeah,
Yeah.
grateful to all of them. Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Talk to us about If My People. It's appearing on our concert titled Voices from Next Door. And we're including songs with sentiments and texts that people at this time truly are feeling during this unprecedented 2020. I feel that people are really turning to prayer. What do you do when things are out of your control? So I thought this piece was very fitting, calling people to pray. Now, some people in our audience may have a spiritual practice and may have none. So, how do you feel that the text of If My People fits with those who don't follow Christianity?
Let me first say that I served as conductor of the Westminster Jubilee Singers for 3 years after we had finished our
Hmm.
masters. The Westminster Jubilee Singers, which is somewhat based upon the work of the Fifth Jubilee Singers, back during the Reconstruction era specifically, is a group that specializes in Black sacred music. There were several of my students that were not believers in any right, but they just had a connection to the music.
Mm.
Music in itself, which expands beyond religious scope, expands beyond language,
Hmm.
expands beyond so many different belief systems. It just, if it reaches you, it reaches you. Um, Back then, I was in college. I had come home Christmas vacation and was at home, and I just kind of flipped through the Bible, and I said, what's something that I'd really like to set? And there was a song that one of my favorite, if not my favorite, if not probably my favorite gospel male vocalist, Daryl Coley, wrote. And it was called Second Chronicles, which is where the book from where the scripture is taken. And I just thought it was absolutely gorgeous, and I
Mm.
still listen to it to this day. And I said, "Where's that scripture? Where's that scripture?" And so I found it, and I just started to write. Um, and it starts with if my people who are called, and to me, thinking about it now, it's almost like God writing, thinking about what's going to come next. If
Mm.
if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray.
Mm.
And so it is almost as like a stream of consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now we are able to think of God as man, God as human form, thinking through these things as a God who feels, as a
Right.
God who loves, as a God who rejoices, as a God who hurts.
Mm-hmm.
And if you place that in the context of today, if we just look beyond religion or look beyond prayer, whatever, we have a human who is hurting, who has given great love to the earth through whatever means. And he or she is just asking for change.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to write it out as best they can. They get excited at some points. They start to, then they pause for a moment, write again,
Mm.
write again.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Hmm. So that we're always in constant thought. We're
Yes.
always developing. Hmm.
So, hi, Karen. It is so great to have you here and to get to talk to you. So, this is an opportunity to share, your life as a composer with our audience. So, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I've been composing for some time, but really focusing on the voice and on choir particularly is a love of mine. I co-founded a group called C4, the Choral Composer Conductor Collective, and we do contemporary choral music. And when the pandemic hit, we were just determined to keep going in some way. So that's become a big thing for me, doing live remote choral music in this time, working with choirs, help them get set up and help them figure out how to navigate this new medium. And composing for them has really become my sole focus now.
Yeah, that's awesome. Um, so, it's always interesting to hear the journey to becoming a composer. So, what was the first instrument that you learned?
Well, my first instrument was piano. I wanted to take voice lessons and cello lessons. Started playing the cello in fourth grade in school, and soon I wanted to take
Oh,
lessons and do that outside of school as well. So, I was doing all the piano, voice, and cello, and I didn't really set aside enough time to practice any of them. But I'm very fortunate that my parents let me continue taking those lessons, even though I would scramble to prepare for my lessons the day before, because I think they realized how important music was to me.
yeah,
And as it is now, I use the piano as a tool for composing.
great.
So it's really great that I'm proficient in it. Even if I'm
Wonderful. I think it broke up just a little bit at the end, but I think you were saying that the piano is a great tool for composing. And
Yeah, I use a piano as a tool for
yeah,
composing. It's quite useful, even if I'm not really very fluent as a pianist. I mean, I would never feel comfortable performing as a pianist.
great. Yeah, I always tell people start on piano. When did you know that singing was an integral part of your life?
I don't remember. I mean, singing is like breathing. I've always been doing it.
I love that. That's wonderful. And what about composing? When did you begin composing music?
I started writing songs when I was in high school, 16 or so, for guitar, which I picked up at what I call the second grade the 2-year-old birthday party level. That's my guitar proficiency. I got the major chords down. So I started writing some songs as some kind of singer and guitar thing, singer songwriter in high school. But I didn't really think of myself as a composer. Didn't think about composing more than just a single melody with some chords to go along with it until I was older. I think I didn't have the confidence, and I wasn't aware of everything going on in music. As a teenager, I was really only aware of the works that I was performing as a singer and as a cellist. So for classical music, that was all I knew about. My parents didn't play anything at home that was classical or contemporary classical or
Froze up there a little bit.
on our record player that were doing something other than folk music or pop music or jazz. Now, there was nothing. There was no opera. There was no. They weren't into classical music, but also what I knew of classical music was the Dead White Men that my teachers gave me. So I don't know if that was also a factor that I didn't think, hey, can I write something for the piano or can I write something for the cello?
Yeah.
So I started writing for more than one voice for my a cappella group in college. I had a lot of fun arranging for the female a cappella group that I sang with. And then from there, I chose senior year to take a composing seminar. And that was when I started composing a bit. And it was after college. I was a psychology major, not a music major.
Wow.
Later on that I started to see what else I could do with composition and really realizing what a wonderful creative outlet it was for me and falling in love with it and then ended up applying to grad school.
Yeah, awesome.
For studying music, composing.
Wonderful. I know how the pandemic has shaped some of your composing because we're doing two of your pieces. Do you want to say a little word about that?
Sure. I mean, I love the challenge of writing for a live remote choir, and I feel like it's been actually a gift to be given these new restrictions of what works for live remote music because restrictions breed creativity. And I like a challenge. I like problem solving. So I've really been enjoying figuring out what are the things that work well for singing online together and how much variety can I create within those restrictions? How can this new piece be totally different from the piece that came before? What can I do differently still within those same limitations?
Yeah, awesome. I love that those limitations force you to be creative in a different way.
I can't fall back on what I've composed before.
Yeah.
Not at all. Although I had written aleatoric music before, so that didn't come out of the blue for me, but not that much in one piece.
Right. Awesome.